Beloved, on this evening, I want you to think about driving a car. I want you to think about all that it takes to maneuver the automobile. You have to know something about traffic laws. That's quite helpful. You have to engage your senses, being able to listen, being able to see. You have to use good judgment, anticipating what other drivers may or may not do, having an understanding as to how to navigate in various terrains and weather conditions. You have to have a sense of direction, and you have to know where you are going. In order to drive that car, you have to have self control. You have to be able to recover from your mistakes or other mistakes. There have to be some absolutes. When you drive a car, one of three things are going to happen. You're either going to arrive at your destination, you're going to stay stuck where you are, or you're going to end up in a collision. The difference in arriving at your destination or being stuck or ending up in a collision is based on all of these factors we just talked about. You cannot drive a car simply in your feelings. You can't ignore good judgment, good sense. You cannot ignore your ability to have direction, using reason, and all of those wonderful things. Now, if you can understand this concept about driving a car, I want to ask you who or what is in the driver's seat of your life? Are you arriving at your desired life destinations? Are you stuck at some point in your life or place in your life? Have you had an emotional collision somewhere? When we talk about who or what is driving your life, who or what is driving your thoughts, your words, your behavior, your choices, your social life? What is driving your mood? As we think about life, so often we get stuck and we're stuck in our feelings. We are sensitive people. We have vulnerabilities. And worse yet, we get hurt by other people. And as a result of that, our feelings take over and we lose control. We lose our ability to recover. We're no longer guided by good judgment and reason and awareness of things that are sensible. We all get in our feelings because we have life's disappointments. We are betrayed by people. We have setbacks. We are being mistreated. Sometimes we get in our feelings because we are incompetent in an area, and so we're frustrated because we don't know how to overcome something. Sometimes we get in our feelings because reality bites. We have this sense of idealism, and we just want things to go a certain way. And when reality tells us something different, we can get in our feelings. Do you know this is why the Bible tells us to be careful about our understanding, our hearts, our feelings? For example, in Proverbs 3 and verse 5, the Bible says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding." In other words, don't get caught up in your viewpoint or your feelings. Proverbs 28:26 teaches us, "Whoever trusts in his own mind is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom will be delivered." If you still struggle to understand why we have to be careful about being in our feelings, Jeremiah 17, verse 9 says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Again, I ask you the question, who's in the driver's seat, or what's in the driver's seat of your life? When things happen, when people happen, when life happens, God does not expect you to ignore your emotions, but He doesn't want you to be driven by your emotions. I'd like to suggest to you that number one, you become aware of your emotions. All of us have been around people who have certain emotional dispositions, and they probably have no sense of knowing what their emotional state is. They are unhappy, they are angry, they are bitter, they are whirlwind, and probably have no idea because it's so common to who they are. It's such a comfortable place. They're stuck and they learn to stay stuck. So learn to be aware of your emotions. May be good to ask somebody to see what type of emotional dispositions you project, because we don't always see ourselves as we really are. Then address the source of your problem. If you don't address the source of your problem, you'll tend to amplify your emotions. The less we deal with what the real problem is, the more rooted we become in our emotional states. Again, who's driving your thoughts, your words, your behavior, your choices, your social life, your mood? Staying stuck in our feelings about disappointments and betrayal and setbacks and all of those different things we just mentioned can keep us stuck. And here's what happens is that we infect others when we are affected by some emotional stirring reality in our lives. Let me say this again. We infect others. That means that we impact them negatively. We spew onto them our emotions, our disposition, because we have been affected. And then that affects those around you in such a way that it sabotages your relationships. It sabotages your future. And it sabotages your happiness. And people, instead of becoming better, they become more bitter. The problem that we encounter when we don't deal with the pains and problems of our lives is that we become our biggest enemy. And when others see us, it's like, oh Lord, here he comes, here she comes, because they have not dealt with themselves. And then what people have a tendency to do is to want to correct everybody else so that they don't have to deal with themselves. Let me offer you just 4 steps that may help you to begin to move towards solutions. And I like to encourage you to do this over a period of hours. And here's what I mean. Number one, write down what your problem or pain is. Somebody ticked you off at work, at church, in your family, in your neighborhood. Something you set out to do did not go the way you planned. You had something that you thought was going to be one way, it ended up another way. Someone mistreated you, betrayed you. Reality bites in some type of way. Just write it down and take an hour or so after you write it down. Just get it out and then step back from it. And then an hour later, come back to it and just start brainstorming what are my solutions, or at least possible solutions. You'd be surprised at how many solutions you can come up with yourself when you stop focusing on the problem and the pain and how you feel, and start moving toward corrective actions. The reason why I say write it down and come back in an hour is give your brain time to rest. Come back to it with a clearer, more objective mind. And then after you brainstorm some solutions, do what you can do. Many times we are waiting on God, and God is waiting on us. Think through that and then start to think about what are your resources. Often people run from resources and they run to people who coddle them, people who pity them and help them to have a pity party. People run to ineffective coping mechanisms and they love to loathe and self pity and woe is me. Listen, whatever your woe is me story is, I promise you, I got one and everybody on this call has one. So we don't need more pity. We need more proactiveness toward looking for and working toward solutions. Otherwise, if we allow our emotions to drive us, we stay stuck or we end up in an emotional collision in life. The Bible says in Romans 8, verse 37, nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors. While we hope to conquer the devil and his devices, we need to conquer our feelings before our feelings conquer us. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.